Before we begin, pause with me for just a second. If you've ever felt invisible while sitting right next to someone who promised to see you forever. If you've ever swallowed words because saying them felt more dangerous than staying quiet. If you've learned the hard way that the most life-altering moments don't explode, but whisper, then this story is for you. And before the silence pulls you in, subscribe to this channel. Because what's shared here isn't entertainment. These are confessions. Moments people carry for years and never say out loud. Stories that don't end when the video does. Now let me tell you about the night everything changed. Not with shouting. Not with a fight. Not with a door slamming shut. But with silence. That night didn't arrive with drama. It didn't warn me. It didn't feel important when it began. There was no thunder outside. No rain streaking down the windows like a bad omen. No heavy feeling in my chest telling me to pay attention. It was just another quiet evening. The kind of night that slips past you because it looks exactly like all the others. The television hummed softly in front of us, throwing pale, shifting light across the room. A show we'd already half seen before. Dialogue that didn't matter. Laugh tracks that didn't reach us. The house had already gone to sleep. The deep settled quiet that comes when everyone else is tucked away. When even the walls seemed to relax. He was sitting beside me on the couch. Not close enough to feel intentional. Not far enough to feel safe. Just there. Our legs brushed now and then. The kind of contact you pretend not to notice. The kind you explain away, because acknowledging it would mean asking questions you don't want answered. At first, I told myself it meant nothing. That this was normal. That this was comfort. That when people have known each other for years, they stop being aware of where one body ends and another begins. But the truth, the quiet, inconvenient truth, was that I noticed. I had been noticing for a long time. The silence between us didn't feel awkward. It felt familiar. Like the pause between breaths. Like background noise you stop hearing because it's always been there. Comfortable. Unchallenged. My husband had already gone to bed. He always did now. Something about his back. A quick goodnight. The same routine, night after night. His presence in the house had become functional. Predictable. Less like a partnership and more like a shared calendar. We didn't argue. We didn't fight. We didn't even really talk. We just coexisted. The man beside me on the couch wasn't a stranger. He'd been part of my life for years. Long enough that his presence barely registered anymore. My best friend's son. Someone I'd watched grow up in fragments, summer visits, holidays, brief returns home. But the boy I remembered was gone. The awkward teenager who trailed water through the hallway after swimming. The one who never remembered to hang up his towel. The kid who avoided eye contact and spoke too quickly. That version of him had disappeared quietly somewhere between leaving and coming back again. Now he was grown. Broader shoulders. A quieter way of holding himself. Eyes that didn't dart away so fast anymore. He'd asked if he could finish the movie before heading out. Of course, I'd said without thinking. Why wouldn't I? It felt harmless. It felt normal. Right up until it didn't. His hand moved without urgency. Not sudden. Not bold. Almost hesitant. It drifted into the space between us like it wasn't sure it belonged there. The tips of his fingers brushed the outside of my leg, barely there. So light it could have been imagined. I froze. My breath caught halfway in, like my body had forgotten what came next. Every muscle tightened, bracing for something I didn't have a name for yet. I didn't move. Neither did he. And in that stillness, something shifted. Because if it had been an accident, he would have pulled away. If it had been a mistake, there would have been an apology. If it meant nothing, it would have ended immediately. But it didn't. That pause said more than words ever could. This wasn't a slip. It was a choice. The room felt heavier all at once, like the air itself had thickened. The television kept playing, faces laughing on the screen. A storyline unfolding that I could no longer follow. Whatever was happening there didn't matter anymore. A different story was taking shape in the quiet between us. His hand stayed where it was. Not moving. Not retreating. Waiting. His pinky curved slightly, resting with intention against my thigh. His palm turned upward, open. Not demanding. Not pleading. Just there. My fingers curled tightly in my lap, I didn't take his hand. But I didn't stand up either. I could feel his breath change. The subtle shift in the way he leaned just a fraction closer, like he was listening for something unspoken. "You okay?" he whispered. The words were barely sound. More breath than voice. I nodded. That was all it took. His hand settled fully against my leg. Warm. Steady. Deliberate. There was no rush in it. No hangir. Just presence. Like he was claiming a space he'd imagined for a long time, but had never crossed into until now. I kept my eyes on the television, pretending nothing had changed. Even though everything had. His thumb moved slowly along the curve of my leg. The simplest motion. And somehow, it shattered something inside me. My stomach tightened. My thighs pressed together without me telling them to. My hands gripped the blanket in my lap. Not to stop him, but to stop myself. When his hand shifted slightly higher, careful, unhurried, I felt my knee part just a little. I don't know why. Or maybe I do. Loneliness doesn't arrive loudly. It doesn't scream or cry or fall apart in front of you. It settles quietly in the places where conversation used to live. In the absence of touch. In the long stretch of days where no one really looks at you anymore. I hadn't felt wanted in years. Not noticed. Not desired. Not chosen. My husband hadn't changed overnight. Distance never does. It grows in increments so small you convince yourself they don't matter. I stopped asking for affection long before he stopped offering it. And when something isn't offered for long enough, you start believing you don't deserve it. That this polite silence is just what adulthood becomes. So when a single hand rested on my thigh, it unraveled years of denial. I told myself that if I stayed quiet, nothing would happen. That silence would protect me. But silence had already erased me. We didn't kiss. Not then. He didn't even look at me. His eyes stayed on the screen, like he was pretending this was still just a movie night. But his fingers traced warmth along my skin like memory. Like something he'd never forgotten. And every part of my body responded. Every breath betrayed me. Inside, I begged myself to stand up. To say something. To stop it. But I didn't. "You don't have to say anything," he whispered. "I'll stop if you want." I said nothing. And that silence, my silence, answered for me. When he pulled his hand away, it wasn't abrupt. There was no shock to it. No panique. No apology spilling out in a rush. It was slow. Measured. Almost reluctant. Like someone stepping back from the edge after realizing how close they'd come to falling. He stood up without looking at me. Cleared his throat. Mumbled something about it being late, about needing to go. His voice sounded normal. Too normal, like nothing significant had just happened. The door closed softly behind him. And just like that, the house returned to silence. But it wasn't the same silence as before. This one had weight. I stayed on the couch long after the credits rolled. The screen went dark, reflecting my own faint outline back at me. My body felt warm in places it hadn't in years. My thoughts were loud, crowded, overlapping. Nothing had happened. And yet, everything had. Eventually, I stood and turned off the television. The click echoed too sharply in the quiet. I walked through the house slowly, as if I were moving through someone else's life. Every step felt deliberate. Careful. I slipped into bed beside my husband. He was already asleep, facing away from me. His breathing was steady, predictable, familiar in the way habits become familiar. Not intimate, just known. I lay on my back and stared at the ceiling. My mind replayed the evening in fragments. The brush of fingers. The pause. The moment I didn't stop. The moment I didn't speak. I told myself it didn't mean anything. That it was exhaustion. Loneliness. A lapse. But my body remembered differently. It remembered what it felt like to be noticed. For years, I told myself I was fine. That comfort mattered more than passion. That stability was the goal. That peace meant quiet. We didn't fight. We didn't betray each other. We didn't break anything loudly. We just faded. There were no cracks in the marriage. Only erosion. Slow. Quiet. Relentless. That night hadn't come out of nowhere. It had grown from years of being unseen. The next morning, everything looked the same. Sunlight through the kitchen window. Coffee brewing. The ordinary sounds of a life that hadn't paused for my internal collapse. My husband asked about errands, schedules, practical things. He didn't ask about me. Part of me was relieved. Another part felt hollow in a way I couldn't explain. Days passed, but time moved strangely, too slow, too fast. I avoided the couch, folded laundry standing up, drank coffee at the counter, anywhere but there. Then one afternoon he showed up with groceries. Said his mom had extras. It was a good excuse. A believable one. I let him in. We stood in the kitchen, surrounded by bags and unspoken things. He leaned against the counter, arms crossed, watching me in a way that made my breath catch. A dish towel slipped from the counter. He picked it up. Our hands brushed. Electric. He looked at me, not politely, not casually, but fully. "You okay?" he asked. The same words as before, but this time they carried weight. I nodded. It wasn't true. That night, long after the house had gone quiet again, I stood in front of the open refrigerator, staring at something I didn't want. Cold air spilled around my bare feet. Behind me, I heard footsteps. I didn't turn. I knew who it was. He stopped just behind me, not touching, but close enough that I felt his presence like pressure in the room. "I can't stop thinking about it," he said softly. Neither could I. I closed the fridge and turned to face him. We stood inches apart. Too close. Too honest. He lifted his hand, hesitated, then gently brushed a strand of hair away from my face. "We shouldn't," I whispered. "I know." And still neither of us moved. The kiss, when it happened, was unsteady, careful. It wasn't rushed or reckless. It felt like grief and longing tangled together, like years of silence collapsing into a single moment. When we stepped back, we were both shaking. We didn't pretend after that. Life didn't fall apart. That was the cruelest part. It kept going. I moved through my days with a strange awareness, like I was watching myself from a distance. Every smile felt practiced. Every routine felt thin. One evening, my husband mentioned he'd be gone overnight. My heart reacted before my face did. Later, I sat on the porch with a glass of wine. Summer sounds filled the air. The door opened behind me. He sat beside me. Close but not touching. "You look tired," he said. "I am." Neither of us slept much anymore. Finally, I asked the question that had been sitting between us all along. "Is this what you want?" He was quiet for a long time. "I don't know what I want," he said. "I just know I want to be where you are." It wasn't the right answer, but it was the honest one. And that's where the story ends. Not with resolution. Not with redemption. Not with certainty. Just with the truth. That sometimes the most dangerous thing isn't desire. It's silence. And once it's broken, you can never pretend you didn't hear it.